Hello all, welcome to RSET Online. The topic that I'll be discussing today is part 3 of module 5 of the subject Engineering Mechanics with the code EST 100. The topic is Simple Harmonic Motion. I am Nimisha Raji, Assistant Professor, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology, Kakarad. Any motion which repeats after equal intervals of time is called a periodic motion. For a periodic motion to be a simple harmonic motion, it should satisfy two general conditions. First one, the acceleration of the body performing periodic motion should be proportional to the distance of the body from a fixed point called center of simple harmonic motion or mean position of the body. Second, the acceleration of the body should be directed towards the mean position. Now consider a particle moving along the circumference of a circle in the anticlockwise direction as shown in the figure. Let r be the radius of the circle, omega be the uniform angular velocity in radians per second, p be the position of the particle after t seconds from the start of motion from the position A, and m is the projection of the particle on the horizontal diameter AB. When the particle moves along the arc ACB, the point M or the projection M moves from A to B. Similarly, when the particle moves along the arc BDA, the point M moves from B to A. Now, in this, O will be the mean position and A and B are the extreme positions. It can be proved that the projection of the particle P on the diameter AB, that is point M, executes simple harmonic motion. For that, we have to prove two things. First one, acceleration of the point M is proportional to the distance from O, and second one, that the acceleration is directed towards O. So, suppose we are considering the triangle OMP. Now, from that, we can write cos theta is equal to OM by OP. Here, theta is the angular displacement. And let OM be x, OP is the radius, so we are denoting it by r. So we can write x is equal to r cos theta. Now, theta is the angular displacement. And we know that angular displacement is angular velocity multiplied by time. That is, theta is equal to omega t. Now substituting value of theta here, we can get the value of x as x is equal to r cos omega t. Now if we substitute different values of t, that is if you want to plot a curve between displacement and time as it is given in figure, we know that because of any value, cos omega t will vary between -1 to 1. That is, the value of x will vary between minus r to r, and it is what is given in the figure below. Now if you want to find out the velocity of m, we know that velocity is equal to dx by dt. Substituting value of x, we can write velocity is equal to minus r omega sin omega t. Now it can also be written as minus r omega sin theta. Okay, so sin theta from the figure we can write it as sin theta is equal to MP by OP. Now MP can be found out using Pythagoras theorem, that is MP will be equal to square root of r square minus x square, and OP is the radius r. So we can write sin theta is equal to square root of r square minus x square by r. Substituting this equation in the equation for V is equal to minus r omega sin theta, we will be getting V is equal to minus omega square root of r square minus x square. Now, if you are to find out the different values of V at different position, that is at theta is equal to 0, substituting sin 0, we will be getting 0, that is V is equal to 0. At theta is equal to 90 degrees, sin theta is equal to 1, so V is equal to minus r omega. At theta is equal to 180 degrees, sin 180 equal to 0, so we will be getting V is equal to 0. That is, velocity is maximum when theta is equal to 90 degrees. That is, velocity is maximum when the point M is at the mean position O. Now similarly, we have to find out the acceleration of m. So we know that acceleration is equal to dv by dt. Substituting the value of v here, we can get a is equal to minus r omega square cos omega t. Similarly, we can write a is equal to minus r omega square cos theta. So substituting different values of theta. At theta is equal to 0 degrees, you know that cos theta is equal to 1. So we will be getting acceleration is equal to minus r omega square. At theta is equal to 90 degrees, cos 90 will be equal to 0. So acceleration is 0. At theta is equal to 180 degrees, cos 180 is equal to minus 1. That is a is equal to r omega square. So we can get that acceleration is maximum when theta is equal to 0 or at 180 degrees. That is, acceleration will be maximum when the point M is at the extreme position. So your velocity is maximum at the mean position and acceleration is maximum at the extreme position. Now the equation for acceleration, that is minus r omega square cos omega t, can also be written in another form. We know that x is equal to r cos omega t. So instead of r cos omega t substituting x, we will be getting a is equal to minus omega square x. That is, for the condition that a periodic motion to be simple harmonic, first is that the acceleration should be proportional to distance from O. So that is, acceleration a is proportional to x. So the first condition is satisfied. Similarly, it should be directed towards O. Now we see that a is equal to minus omega square x. That is, when x is positive, a is negative. That is, always it will be directed towards O. So we can prove that this motion is a simple harmonic motion. Now let m dash be the projection of particle on the vertical diameter CD. Now if you are considering displacement m dash from the mean position, we can write from the figure x is equal to r sine theta, or instead of theta writing it as omega t, x is equal to r sine omega t. Similarly, as we have done for m, we are doing for m dash. So we will be getting v is equal to dx by dt, or v is equal to r omega cos omega t, or v is equal to omega square root of r square minus x square. Similarly, acceleration a is equal to dv by dt, that is, a is equal to minus r omega square cos omega t. That can also be written as a is equal to minus omega square x. So it is similar to the previous equation. That means this is also a simple harmonic motion. Now from this, we can again draw the relation between your displacement x and time t. We will be getting a sine curve similar to the cos curve that we have already obtained before. Now the difference is that we have to use the expression x is equal to r sine omega t when the time of motion is measured from the mean position. That is, when t is equal to 0, the particle executing the simple harmonic motion will be at the mean position. Like in this case, here when your particle is starting from the point A, P is starting from A, m dash will be at O. So that means we have to use the equation for displacement x is equal to r sine omega t when the time of motion is measured from the mean position. In the previous case, we had started your uniform motion from A. At that time, the projection M was at the extreme position. At that time, we had used the expression x is equal to r cos omega t. So the expression x is equal to r cos omega t should be used when the time of motion is measured from the extreme position. That is, in the case when t is equal to 0, the particle executing simple harmonic motion is at the extreme position. And we have seen that in both cases, v is equal to omega square root of r square minus x square, and acceleration is equal to minus omega square x. And we can see that in both cases, your velocity will be maximum at the mean position and acceleration will be maximum at the extreme position, because the equations are very much similar in both cases. Now, if you are taking the equation a is equal to minus omega square x, we can write a as d square x by dt square. So we can write d square x by dt square is equal to minus omega square x, and if we are taking omega square x to this side, we can write d square x by dt square is equal to d square x by dt square plus omega square x is equal to 0. This is the equation for simple harmonic motion. Now moving on to some terms used with simple harmonic motion. First, it is amplitude. Amplitude is the distance between the mean position and extreme position of a vibrating body. Mean position means the equilibrium position. It is a maximum displacement of a particle under simple harmonic motion from its mean position. So in the figure that we have seen earlier, on the example that we have seen earlier, the amplitude will be the radius of the circle. Next term is oscillation. Oscillation is the motion of the projection of the particle along the diameter. We can say that one oscillation is complete when the point M moves from A to B and then from B to A. Period of simple harmonic motion. The period of simple harmonic motion is the time taken by the point M for one complete oscillation. The time taken by the point M for one complete oscillation will be the same as the time taken by the body P moving along the circumference for one complete revolution. That is, by definition we can write angular displacement for one complete revolution is equal to constant angular velocity multiplied by the time. So here we can write time period T is equal to angular displacement for one complete revolution divided by constant angular velocity omega. That means angular displacement for one complete revolution will be equal to 2 pi radians and angular velocity is omega. So we'll be getting T is equal to 2 pi by omega. Now the unit for time period will be seconds. Next term is frequency. Frequency is defined as the number of cycles per second. That is, frequency will be equal to 1 by T. That is 1 by time period, which will be equal to omega by 2 pi. And the unit will be hertz. 1 hertz will be equal to 1 cycles per second. Now, natural frequency will be the frequency of free vibration. Now let us come to a numerical example. A particle moving with simple harmonic motion has an amplitude of 4.5 meters and period of oscillation of 3.5 seconds. Find the time required by the particle to pass 2 points which are at a distance of 3.5 meters and 1.5 meters from the center and on the same side of mean position. Now it is given that amplitude is 4.5. We are representing amplitude by R. So R is 4.5 meters. The time period is given as 3.5 seconds. Now we know that from the equation of time period, T is equal to 2 pi by omega. So your constant angular velocity omega will be equal to 2 pi by T, which will be equal to 1.8 radians per second. Now we have the equation x is equal to R sine omega t. Now substituting different values of x, that is, it is given that we have to find time required by the particle to pass 2 points which are at a distance of 3.5 meters and 1.5 meters from the center and on the same side of mean position. Now let these distances be the time taken from the mean position to reach the point 3.5 meters be t1 and to reach 1.5 meters be t2. So substituting at x is equal to 3.5 meters, let the time be t1. So 3.5 is equal to 4.5 sine omega t. Omega is 1.5, t is t1. Now here it is multiplied by 180 by pi because we have to, if you want to find out it in degrees, that is basically omega t should be in radians. Omega is in radians per second, time t is in seconds. So you will be getting sine omega t in radians. So to convert it to degrees, we are multiplying it by 180 by pi. So from that equation, we can get the value of t as 0.496 seconds. Similarly, at 1.5 meters, we can get the time period t2 as 0.189 seconds. So time required to pass 2 points is the difference between these two, that is 0.307 seconds. Mechanical vibration. When any elastic system is displaced from its equilibrium position, the system undergoes periodic motion known as vibration. We can represent this vibration based on some mechanical vibrating system. There are basically three elements for a mechanical vibrating system. The first element is the inertial element. For translation vibration, the inertial element is basically mass, and for rotation, the inertial element is mass moment of inertia. That we have already seen when we were covering module 4. Now, second element is something known as the compliance element. Compliance element means a compliance element returns to its equilibrium position when the applied force is removed. We can represent that in mechanical vibrating system using springs. So in translation vibration, we can use linear spring, and the equation for linear spring is F is equal to Kx, where K is the stiffness of the spring and X is the displacement. In rotation vibration, we can use rotational spring, and we can use the equation M is equal to K theta, where K is the rotational stiffness and theta is the angular displacement. Now, third element is called as the damping element. That is, it gives any resistance to vibratory motion. So we represent that in terms of a damper. So in translation vibration, the damping force is given as Fd is equal to C into V, where C is the coefficient of damping, that is damping coefficient, and V is the velocity. In rotation vibration, the rotation resistance Md is given as C into omega, where omega is the angular velocity. So we can represent any vibration in terms of mechanical components, that is in terms of inertial component, compliance component, and a damping component. That is, if we are talking about translation vibration, we can give a system in which we have a mass, a spring, and a damper. So a mass, spring, damper system represents a vibration, and we can develop equation based on that. If there is no damping, if you are considering an ideal system where there is no damping, then there will be just a mass and a spring. So that is actually called as a spring mass model. Now there are two terms that is required. One is free vibration and the other is forced vibration. A mechanical system is said to have a free vibration if the periodic motion continues after the cause of the original disturbance is removed. For example, consider a simple pendulum. When we are not giving any kind of a disturbance to that pendulum, the pendulum will be vertical. That is, the string will be vertical, there will be a mass at the bottom. That mass is called as the bob. Now, when we are giving a disturbance to it, that is when we are displacing the bob to another place without changing the length of the string, okay, that is actually a disturbance, and we are just releasing it. What happens? That pendulum will start oscillating. This is what is called as a free vibration. That is, we are not giving any other force after the initial disturbance. That initial disturbance can be a displacement that we have given in the case of a bob, or it can also be a force. Now, the free vibration of mechanical system will eventually cease because of loss of energy from the system. So, in case of a simple pendulum, we have many kinds of disturbances or many kinds of loss of energy. Sometimes it may be due to the air surrounding it. There will be resistance from the air. Sometimes there will be resistance in the system itself, that is at its points of connection. There will be some kind of a friction. So because of that, there will be some loss of energy. Due to this loss of energy, after a particular time, this oscillation will stop. And we can say that periodic motion takes place without any external force. Now coming to forced vibration, this system is said to undergo forced vibration when a periodic disturbing force acts on the system. In forced vibration, system will vibrate at the frequency of the existing force regardless of the initial conditions of the system. In other words, in forced vibration, periodic motion takes place due to external force and the motion continues till the force persists. We can say one example as the earthquake. Now, due to earthquake, suppose we are considering a building and there is an earthquake, the ground shakes in a vibration. So we can see that due to the shaking of the ground, this building will also shake. Now, after the earthquake stops also, this shaking will continue after a particular period of time. That will be a free vibration. But when the ground vibrates, when the building is also vibrating, it is called as a forced vibration. We have already talked about the spring mass system. Now coming to the spring element, that is the compliance element, the property of the spring is the stiffness of the spring. Now when the spring is compressed or elongated using a force, there will be an opposing force which will be developing in the spring. And the spring force Fs developed is proportional to the displacement of the spring. So we can write Fs is proportional to x, or we can write Fs is proportional to Kx, where K is the spring stiffness or the spring constant. So basically, spring stiffness is the force required to produce unit displacement in the spring. So if you are considering the figure, when we are applying a force or displacement x, there will be a spring force which is applied in the opposite direction as shown in the figure. And that spring force will be equal to K into x. Natural frequency of longitudinal vibration. When a vibrating body of a system has to and fro motion along a straight line, the vibration is called linear vibration or longitudinal vibration. Now consider a spring of stiffness K and it is being hung from a fixed support. Now we are going to put a mass below the spring. Now due to the weight, the spring will elongate. Now let that elongation be delta. That is will be known as the static deflection of the spring. Now due to this elongation, there will be spring force which is developed in the opposite direction, that is upwards. So from equilibrium we can write Fs is equal to mg. Fs is a spring force which is given as spring stiffness multiplied by displacement. Spring stiffness is K and displacement is delta. So we can write K delta is equal to mg. Now this will be the equilibrium position of the spring. Now from this equilibrium position, suppose we are displacing the mass by a distance capital X towards the bottom and then releasing it. Then what happens? Then there will be a vibration in the longitudinal direction. That is, there will be an up and down motion. Now there will be an up and down motion and the body will be vibrating with an amplitude X. Now suppose that this mass is at a distance small x below the equilibrium position. Now if I am drawing the free body diagram of the mass alone, what all forces will be there? There will be weight mg which is acting down. Then since the spring has elongated, there will be a spring force which is acting up. The spring force will be given as displacement multiplied by spring stiffness. Spring stiffness is K and displacement will be the total displacement which is x plus delta. And because the motion is downwards, there will be an inertia force in the upward direction which is given as ma. So we can write our equation as mg minus k into x plus delta is equal to ma. Now from the first case, that is based on static deflection, we know that k delta is equal to mg. So we can write it as mg minus kx minus k delta which is equal to mg is equal to ma, and a is d square x by dt square. So since mg is equal to k delta, mg and k delta will get cancelled out. We'll be getting the equation as m dx square by dt square plus kx will be equal to 0. Dividing the whole equation by m, we'll be getting d square x by dt square plus k by m into x is equal to 0. So in simple harmonic motion, we know that a is equal to minus omega square x, or the equation of simple harmonic motion is d square x by dt square plus omega square x equal to 0. So comparing these two equations, we can say that the spring mass system also executes a simple harmonic motion, and the frequency, that is natural frequency omega will be equal, omega square is equal to k by m, or we can write omega will be equal to square root of k by m. Now here the frequency is called as natural frequency because free vibration is happening here. Now we know that your frequency f is equal to 1 by t, or that is equal to omega by 2 pi. So we can write the natural frequency for undamped vibration is f is equal to 1 by 2 pi square root of k by m. That will be in hertz. Omega will be omega square root of k is equal to square root of k by m will be in radians per second. The next topic under consideration is degrees of freedom. The number of degrees of freedom of a physical system is the number of independent spatial coordinates required to define the configuration of a system. Now, a rigid body in space has 6 degrees of freedom, that is 3 coordinates x, y and z to define the rectilinear position and 3 parameters to define the angular position. The constraints to a motion reduces the degrees of freedom of the system. That is, if you are going to consider any 2D plane, that is, suppose we are considering a graph paper. For plotting any point, we require 2 coordinates, x and y. In 3D, we require 3 coordinates. So, if we are considering a rigid body, which is supposed to be moving in a 2-dimensional plane, it can move in its plane, that is, it can move in x direction, in y direction, or a combination. So, the displacement can be as a component of x and y, and also it can rotate about the z direction. So, there are 3 components. When in space, it can move in x, y, z direction, and there will be 3 rotations. That is, it can rotate about x, about y, and about z direction. Now, based on the number of degrees of freedom, that is, if you are providing any type of constraints, degrees of freedom will be reduced. So, based on the number of degrees of freedom, we can classify as, basically, we will be classifying as single degrees of freedom system, 2 degrees of freedom system, or multi degrees of freedom system. Now, considering single degrees of freedom system, the mass is constrained to move in one direction only. Then the degrees of freedom is reduced to 1. Here you can see 2 examples. First one is the spring. That is, it is a linear spring. It has a mass at the bottom. When the mass is displaced, that we have seen in the previous case, the mass can move up and down only. So that means the degrees of freedom is 1. It can move only in the y direction. Now considering the second figure, that is, it is a simple pendulum. We have a bob which is having mass m, and theta is the angular displacement, that is angle made by the mass m at any point of time. Now for a simple pendulum, the length of the pendulum is the same. So we can define that x and y coordinates just in terms of theta alone, because the length of the pendulum will be the same itself. So these two are some examples of single degree of freedom system. Now here are some examples on 2 degree of freedom system. So the first figure, there are 2 springs and there are 2 masses. So what happens here, when the 2 masses can vibrate on its own. So for mass m1, the displacement can be represented by x1, and mass m2 is represented by x2. Now these 2 masses are independent. We cannot write x1 in terms of x2 or anything like that. So there are 2 degrees of freedom system. Now similarly, in the second figure, we have a pendulum with a spring on it. So there are 2 degrees of freedom here. One is that the pendulum can move sideways, that is, that theta can vary, and also the spring can also move, that is, we can represent the degrees of freedom as 2, that is theta and x. Now another topic is spring mass model. A mass subjected to a force along the axis of a spring which is attached to the mass is called a spring mass system. If the mass is subjected to a damping force, it is called as damped spring mass system. Now we are going to consider springs in series and parallel. So in spring mass model, the springs can be attached to the mass either in series or parallel. So first consider springs in series. That means here the connection is made end to end. So let delta 1, delta 2 and delta 3 be the elongation of each spring due to the mass m. That is, we have 3 springs which is attached to the same mass. And let the stiffness of the 3 springs be K1, K2 and K3. Now, we know that total deflection delta, we are just considering the static deflection here, we can say that delta will be equal to delta 1 plus delta 2 plus delta 3. Now, in the figure to the right, we can see an equivalent spring. And equivalent spring stiffness will be Ke, and the equivalent displacement is delta E. Or when it is in series, for an equivalent system, the delta should be the same. That is, delta E should be equal to delta 1 plus delta 2 plus delta 3. Now here we are considering just the static deflection, not the dynamic. Okay, so we know that from the second figure, delta E, we can find out using the equation that we have used earlier. That is, we have already derived that K delta is equal to mg. So from that we can write delta is equal to mg by K. So substituting each value here. So delta E is equal to mg by Ke, delta 1 is equal to mg by K1, delta 2 is equal to mg by K2 and delta 3 is equal to mg by K3. Substituting these equations here, we can cut off mg from all the equations and we can get 1 by Ke is equal to 1 by K1 plus 1 by K2 plus 1 by K3. So this is the equation for springs in series. Now next is springs in parallel. So here the difference is that the 3 springs are individually connected to the mass m. So the spring stiffnesses are K1, K2 and K3 here. So difference from the last one is that here for the 3 springs the displacement will be the same. And that displacement will be equal to the displacement of the equivalent spring. Okay, so in the previous one, that is in springs in series, we had to add the displacements to get the total displacement. Here, the displacement for all the springs will be the same. So we know that for the equivalent spring, it will be mg will be equal to Ke into delta. Now, if you are considering the 3 springs, there will be, if you are going to consider the free body diagram of the mass, so we will be having mg which is acting down. In each of the spring, there will be a spring force which is acting up. So writing down the equations, we can write mg is equal to K1 delta plus K2 delta plus K3 delta. That is, mg is equal to K1 plus K2 plus K3 into delta. Now equating both of them, we write Ke is equal to K1 plus K2 plus K3. So these are the 2 equations for springs in series and springs in parallel. Now let us consider a numerical example. A weight of 50 Newton suspended from a spring vibrates vertically with an amplitude of 7.5 cm and a frequency of 1 oscillations per second. Find A. Stiffness of the spring, B. Maximum tension induced in the spring, and C. Maximum velocity of the weight. Now it is given that weight is 50 Newton, so mass is equal to W by G, that is 50 by 9.81. And it is given that it vibrates vertically with an amplitude of 7.5 centimeters. So X will be equal to 7.5 centimeters. Frequency is 1 oscillations per second. That is, F is equal to 1 hertz or 1 cycles per second. Now we have to find first one, what is the stiffness of the spring. So we have the equation F is equal to 1 by 2 pi square root of K by M. We know the values of F and M. From that we can find the value of K. So K is 201.2 Newton per meter. Now second part is to find the maximum tension induced in the spring. So maximum tension is basically equal to your spring stiffness by maximum extension. That is, your maximum extension will be equal to the static deflection plus the amplitude. So static deflection can be given as, we know that K delta is equal to mg. That is, delta is equal to mg by K. Mg is actually W. So we can write static deflection is W by K plus amplitude, which is X. So we can get maximum tension is W plus Kx. So from that we can find tension as 65.09 Newton. Maximum velocity is given as omega into X. And we know that omega will be equal to 2 pi f. That is, f is equal to omega by 2 pi. So omega will be equal to 2 pi f into X is the maximum amplitude. So here maximum amplitude was given in centimeters. We had converted to meters for using the equation. Now let us consider another numerical example. A body of mass 50 kg is suspended by springs of stiffnesses 4 kN per meter and 6 kN per meter as shown in figure. The body is pulled 50 mm down from its equilibrium position and then released. Calculate first one, frequency of oscillation, second one, maximum velocity, and third one, maximum acceleration. So we have two cases. First case is the figure for first case is given here. So here we can see that from what we have seen earlier, the springs are in series. That is, we have two springs, 6 kN per meter and 4 kN per meter, and they are connected in series. And the mass is 50 kg. So for springs connected in series, the equivalent stiffness is given by the equation 1 by Ke is equal to 1 by K1 plus 1 by K2. From there we can find out Ke is equal to 2.4 kN per meter or 2400 Newton per meter. Now we have to calculate frequency of oscillation. So frequency of oscillation F is equal to 1 by 2 pi square root of K by M. K is known, M is known. So we can write F is equal to 1.1 cycles per second. It should be noted that for using the equation omega is equal to square root of K by M, K should be in newtons per meter and M should be in kg. Now maximum velocity. To find out maximum velocity and maximum acceleration, we have to find out the angular velocity omega. So omega can be found out using omega is equal to 2 pi f. So from that we can find omega as 6.93 hertz. Now maximum velocity is given as omega x, that is 0.35 meter per second, and maximum acceleration is omega square x, that is 2.4 meter per second square. Now for the same question in the previous slide, we have the other two cases. So we can see two cases here. For both cases, we can note that these springs are in parallel. So we can use the same equation for both these cases. So for springs in parallel, equivalent stiffnesses, sum of the stiffnesses, that is Ke will be equal to 10 kN per meter, that is 10,000 Newton per meter. Again, substituting equations for frequency F is equal to 1 by 2 pi square root of K by M, we can get frequency is 2.25 cycles per second. Angular velocity is 14.14 hertz, 14.14 radians per second, and maximum velocity is omega x, that is 0.71 meter per second, and maximum acceleration is omega square x, that is 10 meter per second square. Now let us consider a particular case of simple harmonic motion, which is that of a simple pendulum. So simple pendulum basically consists of a bob attached to one end of an inaccessible string, and the other end of the string is fixed to a rigid support as shown in the figure. Now it is assumed that the friction at the support and the air resistance of the to the motion of the bob is negligibly small. So just consider a simple pendulum with the length of string as L and mass of bob as M. Let alpha be the amplitude of oscillation, theta be the angular displacement, and S be the linear displacement of bob. So suppose we are displacing the bob by a linear displacement S. For small values of S, we can write small values of theta, we can write the linear displacement is equal to arc length, that is S is equal to L into theta. Now, if AT is the tangential acceleration and sigma ft is the net force in tangential direction, we can write sigma ft is equal to m into at, that is as per D'Alembert's equation. At is the tangential acceleration, we can write it as d square s by dt square. Now, force in the tangential direction is the component of gravity force mg. So Ft means it is mg is acting actually down. So component of mg in the tangent direction is given as mg sin theta. So Ft will be equal to minus mg sin theta. Since theta is small, we can write as minus mg theta, or it is minus mg into s by L. So equating both these equations, we can write m is equal to m into d square s by dt square is equal to minus mg into s by L, or d square s by dt square plus g by L into s is equal to 0. This is same as the equation of simple harmonic motion, that is d square s by dt square plus omega square is equal to 0. From that we can write omega is equal to square root of g by L. We know that omega is equal to square root of g by L. We have f is equal to omega by 2 pi, that is 1 by 2 pi into square root of g by L, and time period is 1 by f, that is 2 pi square root of g by L. So from this we can say that the time period of a simple pendulum can be changed by changing the length of the string. So there is no term for mass of the bomb. So mass of the bomb doesn't play importance in the time period. It is the length of the spring which is of importance. Two terms, one term which is important here is called as beat or swing. So one beat is basically half of an oscillation. So time period of one beat will be equal to t by 2, that is pi into square root of L by g. And there is a pendulum which is called as seconds pendulum. So when the time period of one beat is 1 second, then the pendulum is called as seconds pendulum, that is time period of seconds can be equal to 2 seconds. Now we come to an example. Find the length of seconds pendulum. So we know that for a seconds pendulum the time period is 2 seconds, and the equation for time period is 2 pi square root of L by g. So substituting the value here and g as 9.81, we can get the length L as 99.4 centimeters. So that's all about simple harmonic motion. Thank you.